From pushing broadcasters to turn their backs on the breakaway league to restricting media companies in their reports, LIV Golf has been accusing the PGA Tour of a lot of shady stuff lately. But trying to sabotage the league's TV deal might have been a step too far. I mean, this war has already been nasty enough with everything that's happened over the past year. With this new claim from LIV Golf, however, it seems like the tour is really trying to shut the upstart league down before it catches any momentum. Now, remember how Greg Norman spent months trying to secure a TV rights deal? Many people thought it was insane just how long it was taking them to find a broadcasting partner. We heard rumors of Fox, CBS, ESPN, and even Netflix. And yet, every single one of these broadcasters refused to work with the Saudi league. Of course, you get the whole reasoning for the league being controversial and not having enough interest, but it seems like there was something much more sinister going on behind the scenes after all. Yep, LIV claims that the tour actively tried to dissuade broadcasters from signing contracts with the upstart circuit. According to them, every single broadcaster they tried to contact turned them down. Why? Well, because they had ties with the tour and didn't want to ruin that relationship. Oh, and just for context, most of the major US broadcasters like CBS, NBC, and ESPN have long-term contracts with the PGA Tour. Still, it's not like that it legally stopped them from entering into an agreement with another league, right? Well, again, this is where things get tricky, because LIV is making some big claims here. In fact, the upstart league claims a PGA Tour executive coaxed the networks to turn their backs on it. The Saudi Tour's lawyers made this claim in a court filing as a part of the larger antitrust lawsuit. And according to them, Thierry Pascal, who's the senior vice president of international media for the tour, is the guy behind everything. They say he used illegal means to dissuade numerous broadcasters in international markets from signing contracts with LIV. Oh, and they're not just pulling this information out of nowhere. The circuit's lawyers are actually citing tour documents on this one, which just gives their claim extra credibility. Now, obviously, that doesn't sound great. I mean, trying to undermine your rival by improving your own competition is one thing, but actively trying to sabotage their potential media deals? Yeah, that won't put a smile on Norman's face. It gets worse though, because blocking the media rights deal wasn't the only thing that Pascal did. He also stopped broadcasters from reporting about LIV events in their news content. And if you don't know why that's bad, let me explain. You see, sports networks that have golf-focused channels may not show content from around the world, which, to be fair, isn't logistically possible anyway because you could have multiple big tournaments going on at the same time. But even when these networks haven't signed deals with other tours, they still report on what's happening, including the results and all the latest news, right? I mean, that's what you'd want them to do as a golf fan anyway. The PGA Tour, however, doesn't even want these networks to mention LIV Golf, meaning some of the top golfers in the world like Cameron Smith or Dustin Johnson don't get any coverage from the mainstream sports media at all. Sure, that may not feel like a big issue at first, but it is a bit disingenuous when you think about it. And yet, even this isn't the extent of the tour's attempts to squash competition, because, yep, the rabbit hole goes way deeper. How? Well, apparently, LIV Golf also lost a signed deal because of the tour's antics. Now, that's just insane. But hey, the league's lawyers claim it's true. They say that every single time LIV executives had meetings with broadcasters, they'd get a call back a few moments later saying the deal can't proceed. And this same thing happened with a signed contract as well, where a network backed out of a deal that was already done and dusted. Obviously, no specifics were mentioned, but if I were to make a guess, it'd have to be Amazon, since there was a lot of talk about that going through. The Saudi-funded circuit's attorneys also alleged that Pascal dissuaded broadcasters over phone calls or in-person meetings, just so it'd be harder to track those interactions down. Oh, and Pascal now has to give a deposition in London to counter LIV's claims as well. Now, if you didn't already know, the Saudi-funded league did eventually sign a media rights deal. except it wasn't nearly as big as they'd hoped. The Upstart Circuit's broadcast partner, CW Network, is considered a secondary network, since the league is its first sporting event, which, of course, means that they won't get the sort of traction they would have got with a mainstream partner. This also plays into the PGA Tour's claims that LIV's low TV ratings imply it doesn't have an engaged audience. After all, if they're the ones who've sabotaged all the good deals, then surely they can't use the low ratings as ammo in this case, right? Still, just how much has Greg Norman's tour suffered because of this? Is the impact really that significant? Yup. The situation is kinda dire for a golfing entity as big as LIV Golf. Take their opening weekend audience as an example. According to Nielsen data, they had an average audience of around 291,000 viewers during the event's final round. In comparison, the PGA Tour had an average audience of 2.42 million people for Honda Classic's final round. I mean, that comparison sounds bad enough already, but when you consider the fact that the Honda Classic isn't even that big of an event, and it had almost 10 times the viewers of LIV's season opener, then yeah, these two aren't even in the same stratosphere. Now, if you checked the Saudi-funded league's announcement on its social media, you've probably seen a different viewership number, because over there, they claimed that they had more than 1.3 million total linear viewers during the final round. The issue with that, however, is that LIV has used total reach to get that figure. And if you were to do the same for the PGA Tour, then their number would actually be around the 15 million mark. So, yeah, that only makes things worse. But it's not like Greg Norman's team has a choice. I mean, they have to show they're still competitive, because otherwise they risk losing the little interest and audience they've got. That's not even the extent of the issue that could arise from these viewership numbers, though. In fact, they could lose sponsorship opportunities as a result. Yup. The real issue is that when sponsors start seeing the disparity in numbers between LIV and the PGA Tour, they could get discouraged and even potentially pull out of any deals. I mean, finding sources of revenue has been tricky for them anyway. So if things don't course correct and the PGA Tour continues to shut down opportunities for the upstart league, this could prove to be a killing blow in this battle. LIV's chief media officer, Will Staker, says that they're only looking at their long-term growth. But still, you need to be at least relatively competitive, right? That said, the implications of this whole saga go beyond just the viewership or sponsors. After all, this could put an end to any potential peace talks between the tours. Like, before these revelations, we still had people on both sides trying to mend their relationships. And despite all the supposed animosity between Norman and Jay Monahan, there was still some possibility of them sitting together, especially if their players rallied behind them and asked them to find a solution. This sabotage claim from LIV, however, has thrown a spanner in the works. Not only does it eliminate any trust or sportsmanship among them, but it also simply means that everything is on the table now when it comes to using dirty tactics to one-up each other. Honestly, I'm not sure if there's a way back for either of them at this point. And that, folks, was how LIV Golf is being sabotaged by the PGA Tour.